Welcome to the nexus of transformation and innovation, where grand construction dreams become a reality, and the
Hello, Brenda, you are the host.
Hi, Ron.
Hi, I could only see Brenda's name appearing here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, welcome.
So, thanks. So, have you tried out YouTube?
Yeah, we are live on YouTube. We have guests
Okay.
already. And
Nice. Okay, good.
so welcome those of you who have joined us. We will begin shortly. So give us a few minutes. You've joined early. That's good. We shall begin shortly.
In the realm of business, where success is earned and leadership is defined, there's a path that stands above the rest. Welcome to the Project Management Professional Masterclass PMP by Peak Point Consulting Group, a journey that unlocks your potential and sets you on the trajectory of excellence. Join the ranks of over 1.4 million esteemed credential holders, worldwide individuals who have proven themselves. Statistics don't lie. These aren't just numbers. They are your passport to professional success. At Peak Point Consulting Group, we don't just train, we mentor. We don't just educate, we empower. With our PMI authorized training partner status, we bring you unmatched expertise, unparalleled insights. With the Project Management Professional Masterclass, you don't just learn, you transform. You don't just manage, you lead. The PMP isn't just a certification. It's a symbol of excellence, a testament to your dedication to delivering results. Prove yourself with the PMP. Elevate your potential, your career, and your future. Peak Point Consulting Group, empowering leaders, transforming futures. In the realm of business, where success is earned and leadership is defined, there's a path that stands above the rest. Welcome to the Project Management Professional Masterclass PMP by Peak Point Consulting Group, a journey that unlocks your potential and sets you on the trajectory of excellence. Join the ranks of over 1.4 million esteemed credential holders, worldwide individuals who have proven themselves. Statistics don't lie. These aren't just numbers. They are your passport to professional success. At Peak Point Consulting Group, we don't just train, we mentor. We don't just educate, we empower. With our PMI authorized training partner status, we bring you unmatched expertise, unparalleled insights. With the Project Management Professional Masterclass, you don't just learn, you transform. You don't just manage, you lead. The PMP isn't just a certification. It's a symbol of excellence, a testament to your dedication to delivering results. Prove yourself with the PMP. Elevate your potential, your career, and your future. Peak Point Consulting Group, empowering leaders, transforming futures.
Uh, Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, from wherever you're joining us from. We shall begin shortly. But in the meantime, those of us who are already here, I would appreciate if you could just let us know where you are joining from. Can just let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. We already are 5 minutes before time. We still have enough people, the session. So we could appreciate, just use the chat option. Let us know where you're joining us from. Sekani from Malawi, welcome Sekani. We have Daniel from Daniel Chinawa from Malawi as well. Welcome Daniel, good to have you on the call. Friend from Kaputo from Zambia, welcome. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good down there. Anne from Nairobi, welcome, Anne. Good to have you. Felicia from Nigeria, all the way from Nigeria, amazing country. Good to have you on the call. Welcome. Eric from Kigali. You say Kigali. Good to have you on the call. Most definitely can't wait for August. We have the PMI Africa Conference happening in Kigali this August. Great conference. We can't wait to be there. We have Eddie from Kwale. Welcome, Eddie, friend from Kwale. Good to have you on the call. Bambaza David from, okay, I think that you're asking an earlier question. So good to have you guys. We shall begin in a short while. Meanwhile, just let us know where you're joining from. We shall definitely be up in the next couple of minutes. So just hang in there. You've come a little bit early, which is a good thing as project managers, just in time. So the next couple of minutes, about 10 or so minutes, we shall begin. Ron, you mind just introducing the team as I do a couple of things?
No problem. Welcome everyone to today's PMP Masterclass. Picking up from where Kevin has left it, I see Boniface from Nairobi, Boniface Okusi, Peter Mentor from Cape Town, South Africa. Welcome to the class. Okay, there was a glitch and I'm just rejoining. Now I can't see the charts, but let me see. Oh, I can see the chart now. Ben Ruto from Kenya, karibu sana. Joseph Muturi. This is really a Kenyan, I believe, joining from Dar es Salaam. Welcome, Joseph. Milton Ogot from Nairobi, most welcome. Joseph Muturi already, we've met him. Kampamba Lukwesa from Zambia, welcome. Lukwesa. Jean-Marie Sengimana Kabera from Kigali, welcome. Jean-Marie. Abdul Kadir Abdullahi from Somalia, but Kenyan, welcome Abdul Kadir. Josephine Rugisha from Rwanda, welcome Josephine. And Jama from Nairobi, karibu sana. Ibrahim Tuyizere from Rwanda. Again, as Kevin was saying earlier, we are really looking forward to coming to Rwanda for the PMI African Conference later on this year. That's the Project Management Institute African Conference. Big event will be happening in Kigali at the Kigali International Convention Center. We hope to see you guys there. Priscilla Tindwa from Malawi, Collins Munyao from Nairobi, Changu Mwemba from Zambia. Welcome all. Mohamed Duale from Somaliland. Welcome, Mohamed. Kasim Kasana. Kasim, welcome. For those who may not be aware, and I think it's almost all of you, Kasim Kasana was a student in this class just a few months ago. He has since passed and has been certified as a PMP and is now one of our faculty members. So always a pleasure to see people passing the exam and then going on to teach others about PMP. George Mponya from Malawi, welcome. Jocelyn Umugiraneza from, I believe, Chigali. Yes, actually, has mentioned that. Thank you for the welcome, Jocelyn. We look forward to seeing you there. Ibukun Adebayo from Nigeria. Welcome, Adebayo. Miriam Tibiwa from University of Nairobi. Welcome. Christine Kongolo from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Welcome so much. Josephine Lansana from Sierra Leone. Welcome, Josephine. Timothy Nyirenda from Malawi. Raban from Tanzania. Shadrach Chipapi from Malawi. Felista, a Kenyan. Francis Ndolo from Machakos County. Welcome on board. Howard Mwesiga from Uganda. Welcome, Howard. Timotheo Mwakimi from Dar es Salaam. Karibu sana. Christine Ingutia from Kenya. Gideon Kirui from Kenya. David Mbewa from Kenya. Karibuni. Brian Njuguna from the United States International University in Kenya. Welcome. Rachel from South Africa. Lutaya Duncan from Uganda. Eugene Ochola from Kenya. Ryan Nathan from Dar es Salaam. Welcome on board. Tumohaise Deogracius, Minister of Water and Environment in Uganda. Welcome on board, Deogracius. Tabiso Motlong, I believe I got that pronunciation correct, from South Africa. Welcome. Christian Mushongo from Namibia. Welcome, Crystalline, welcome. Mark Obur from Nairobi, you're welcome. And I'm just curious, how many of us here are actually in the project management space. You work in a project role. Maybe as we continue, you can just put in the chat which sector you work in, just to give us an idea who we are dealing with and what level of knowledge is already in the house. Some of you may already be project managers in various industries, in the non-profit sector, in the construction sector, all different sectors. So we can see Howard is in energy and climate justice, Gideon solar industry, Anne Omufira, construction project manager, Leah project manager in telecommunications industry, Mohammed M&D officer, national TB program in the Ministry of Health of Somaliland. Alfred is in construction. Jama Omar, ICT business analyst dealing with ICT projects. Masego Mabe is from Durban, South Africa. Lalita Moodley, software in healthcare industry. Miriam Tibiwa, project management student. Crystalline, non-profit sector. Ryan, real estate. Rachel, project manager in tech startup, at a tech startup. Munguleni, Jonathan, infrastructure development. Adebayo, construction. Abdul Kadir, monitoring and evaluation specialist in agro livestock projects. Michelle, energy and energy management. George, IT, fintech, core banking ecosystems. Joram says all his life in project management, even relationships. Yes, well, project management is all over, as we can already see. For those who may not be in the project management space at the moment, we can already see that participants here come from all sorts of industries, managing all sorts of projects, And this is what we mean by the term that was coined by Antonio Rodriguez, one of the thought leaders in matters project management, the project economy. He wrote an article for the Harvard Business Review titled "The Project Economy Has Arrived." And what he meant is that in today's world, organizations are achieving their mission and objectives primarily through projects. And so many of us, whether we like it or not, some of us will be dragged kicking and screaming into projects. We will be required to be part of project teams. We will be sometimes be designated as a project manager or project coordinator, whether we know what we are doing or not. And it helps that we are prepared and ready when those opportunities come. And there's no escaping this. You may be an accountant, you may be a procurement person, you may be in any other field, but because most teams are going to be working in, many organizations are going to be delivering on their objectives via projects, you are going to be a member of a project team, and you better know what's going on and be able to contribute fully to that team. And if it happens that you are selected to lead that team, the better. And in any case, those who have the project management skills will inevitably rise to the top. On that team, you could be the one that has a PMP, a project management credential or certification. Naturally, you will become the leader. And I would love to work on a project team where the leader knows what they're doing, as opposed to other teams where someone is designated as the project manager, but they have never been to a project management class. And you can imagine what happens on those teams. So welcome. I see Kevin seems to be ready by the look of the determination in his eyes. So Kevin, I hand over to you to lead the next session.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ron, and indeed to welcome all of you. Good to have you. Just a few minutes into the program. Glad that session will be recorded. Welcome, team. Good to have each one of you to this. I want to welcome you to this PMP Masterclass. This is the first of a series of 20 classes. What we do at Peak Point is that every class, this when a season begins, the first session is usually a free session, just to get to appreciate, what project management looks like. Again, as Ron has rightly put it, we will find ourselves in different sectors, in different areas. And from time to time, we are in a space where we are managing projects. Somebody said that they have been in projects all their life. And then the question is, are they doing it right? So hopefully by the time we finish this session, we're going to appreciate that. Just some few housekeeping rules. Because of the large numbers, you notice that we're in a webinar setting. That means you might not be able to speak up. So use the chat option, the Q&A option to communicate with the panelists. So we will be, Ron and Brenda will be responding to your queries on the chat, in the chat, and in the Q&A option. Towards the end, should you feel like your question has not been answered or it's been answered but is not conclusive, you can just raise up your hand and we will make you a co-host, a panelist, and then you will be allowed to speak. The material that I'm going to present here in terms of slides will be shared to you on the link using the email that you register tomorrow. So just know that you'll receive the material. Also, this session will be recorded and you shall have access to the recording as well tomorrow. In the course of the class, Ron and Brenda will be engaging you, and we will have a link to our WhatsApp group. Should you have maybe want to drop off but you want to catch up later on a couple of things, maybe some Q&A that you felt was not answered, there is a group that we have, and that link will be put on in the chat. Also, Should you want to, join a future class, a future session, definitely also there will be that link to the, in the chat. I think with that, I want to welcome each one of you, and indeed, so pleased and honored to have 175 of you so far. For me to, it's a great honor, and I hope that in the next couple of minutes, you shall be enjoying all this session. So welcome to the PMP Masterclass session by Pickpoint Consulting Group. It will be facilitated by me, Kevin Nyakundi, one of the facilitators of at Pickpoint. And of course, Ron is also one of the other facilitators. And of course, we do have others who are not here, but at least we will be representing them. So this masterclass, as I've mentioned, is one of the 20 that is coming up. So every month we run this PMP masterclass, and really the very essence, we'll talk a little bit about PMP, what it is and why it is a gold standard when it comes to project management. Turns out that many of us, again, as Ron says, that we find ourselves in spaces where we are forced, sometimes pushed into projects, yet we just have the technical know-how. And as we shall see in a short while, it's not sufficient to have just the technical know-how. Having proper project management skills is a prerequisite for delivery of value in project management. And I think that is really what this particular session shall be indeed all about. So just a little bit about Pickpoint. This is a consultancy firm and a consultant and training firm based in Nairobi. We offer innovative consulting and training services. And we are largely experts in the space of project management, leadership, strategy, and performance management. We are a premier authorized training partner with PMI. That PMI has accredited us to offer, the PMP, the PMI credentials. That is, that's the PMP, PMICP, CAPM, PMICP is PMI Construction Professional. We have the Certified Associate in Project Management, the PMI Agile Certified Practitioner, and many others. As an ATP, we have continued to build confidence by training providing highly specialized trainings and really trainings to enable you to become a better person, be able to become a better professional in your area of work. We want to welcome each one of you on board to this PMP Masterclass. And it's my hope that in the next I'll endeavor to deliver this in the next maximum 2 hours, 15 minutes, so we have more time for Q&A. So I shall endeavor to make sure that I stick to that time frame. I would like to start with this quote from Aristotle, that excellence is never an accident. That excellence is never an accident. Actually, excellence is a result of intention, preparation, and practice. That yes, we find ourselves in spaces where, as where sometimes we are selected into a project team. We're still asked to lead a project team. And in that endeavor, as human beings, we desire to, of course, outshine ourselves, to do well, to get to a point where we feel we are actually doing the right thing. We know what we're doing. But that doesn't come, as you all know, just by accident. There has to be preparation, intention, and practice. And in 2008, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a very interesting book, Outliers. And in that book, Malcolm Gladwell was seeking to answer a basic question. What does it take to achieve excellence? What does it take? What differentiates high performance from mediocrity, from mediocre performance, from average performance? What separates high-performing scientists, engineers, pianists, footballers? And in that book, Malcolm Gladwell gives an answer: 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. That for you to get to excellence, for you to get to the top 10%, the top 3% in your field, you have to be very intentional in practicing what you do, the 10,000 hours, the 10,000 hours rule. But of course, there's much more in that book, in the sense of seeking and growing towards excellence, that you have to be very deliberate. So, and I put this as the starting point of this lecture, because for me, how I look at it, in the next couple.
Welcome to the nexus of transformation and innovation, where grand construction dreams become a reality. And
I'm not sure, was that mine or Ron?
Kevin, that seems to be yours. I don't know how it's happening.
Okay.
We see your slide, but the
Okay.
video somehow is playing.
You
But
can
now
still
it
hear
has
it?
stopped. No,
Okay.
it stopped.
Okay. No, that was on. Yes.
Hello. Brenda, you are the host.
Hi, Ron.
Hi. I could only see
So
Brenda's name
if the
appearing
slides
here.
are on, that's fine. Okay, sorry for that.
So, Kevin, it seems like
Can you hear me?
things we spoke
Yes, I can hear you.
maybe
Ron.
10 minutes
okay,
ago
okay.
are replaying for some
Yeah.
reason.
Welcome.
So, thanks. So, have you tried out YouTube?
Yeah, we are live on YouTube. We have guests.
Okay. Kevin, you're on mute.
Hi, Ron. We were mixing up. I had to just stop, make sure that we. So welcome those of you who have joined us. We will begin shortly. So give us a few minutes. You've joined early. That's okay. I think I knew what the problem was. Sorry for that. So I was just talking about this, the 10,000 hour rule by Malcolm Gladwell. That in the next couple of days, as we push through this, of course, you don't do the 10,000 hours, but hopefully this gives you a reason, gives you some impetus to begin on your 10,000 hour journey. And what I know is that it's a fruitful journey, especially in the fields. Again, given from the chart, what you guys, the fields that each one of you are. So just a little bit about myself. I'm an engineer by profession. I've been in the field for, oh my goodness, for so long. More than 14 years now in managing largely projects within the private and public sector. I always tell people that I'm a product of the product. So, having graduated, with the field of engineering and gone out and did projects, I discovered that every time I was handling any project, yes, I knew the technical side of it, but I always discovered that there was something that I didn't know about project that I needed to find out, and I had to go back and make reference until, of course, I became a PMP. And long story short, it's always been a great ride, and I hope that as you guys join into this, you will also get to experience that. I'm an accredited trainer with PMI. So I do the PMP, the PMI CP, that's the construction professional, the CAPM, and the PMI ACP. But again, for today, our focus, of course, is the PMP certification. This masterclass will give you the 35 contact hours that PMI asks of you. Before you do your PMP, you require 35 contact hours, which basically is what this particular training is out to give all of us. Our promise is that this is the most comprehensive PMP training course in the market, and hopefully in a short while, I shall validate why that is the case. So in this particular session, our key focus shall be to just look at the strategic role of project management. We want to look at the strategic role of project management We shall put a case for effective project management and why organizations globally are out and looking for people who can manage projects better. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? Why is it that professionals are always running towards the PMP certification? Why is that the case? So we shall be looking at a case for effective project management. And I'll try to talk to why, PMI and PMI product, in particular the PMP, really sets you out and, aligns with this case for effective project management. We shall also talk about, a brief intro into the project management professional. I mean, the project management as a whole, but of course, in focus, we shall be looking at the content of the PMP, which is basically, ideally today, is just the first day for a series of the 20 sessions, as I mentioned. So before I progress far, let me play a short video here.
Got a call from a local.
Confirm, is the audio from the video okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Consulting company wanting to talk to me and discuss my eligibility for a project manager role. This never happened before the PMP certification. I currently work with Deloitte Canada, as a senior consultant in the business agility practice. I was trying to get into the project management space. I had sent out my resume. I didn't get a lot of traction. And then my friend told me, nobody's going to talk to you if you don't have PMP, because it creates that confidence and assurance of your understanding of project management. And I said, I'll go for it. Within 3 months, I got the certification. And 2 months after, I got a PM job. The part of being a PMP that's helped is the fact that you have an understanding of leading practice and marry them with the understanding of the local operating environment to deliver those unique projects. I feel that without the PMP certification, a lot of the outstanding results that we achieve would not have been achieved.
So just one of the beautiful thing about the PMP certification, of course, is the fact that, whichever part of the globe you go to South Africa, you go to Rwanda, you go to Nigeria, you go to Malawi, you go to Kenya, you go to Tanzania, you find PMPs all over, which is a good thing. So it's a global certification. What are our key ideas for this evening? The key ideas for this evening, number one, is that projects are focused on business results by creating value, competitive advantage, and winning the marketplace. That organizations don't go out to execute projects because we just have infinite resources, not at all. Organizations go out to do projects because there is a particular goal, there's a strategic objective that they want to achieve. So they will always have some business idea, business results in mind. We want to create value. And one of the things that we shall really emphasize, and this course really does emphasize, is that at the end of the day, projects are nothing other than vehicles for value. That the only reason we execute projects at organizational level, at individual level, is because of the value that the project is meant to give us. So projects are vehicles for value. So most projects today are uncertain, complex, nonlinear, and changing. That today's rate of change is the slowest that we're going to see in the industry. That tomorrow we expect change to be much faster than it is today. And because of that, definitely, and if we're handling projects, you can imagine the complexity we see there. And we're seeing complexity for projects in all spheres, from the design, from financing, from execution. Nowadays, I see in my nature of projects, especially stakeholders, people have become so aware of their rights. And right now, it's not the traditional way where you could do a project and just assume that you'll just finish and people will, you'll have your way. Sometimes, even when the government is doing a project, people are in it. People want to query, what is this being done? People want to query, why are you damaging the environment? People want to query why complexity of projects is increasing. And as a project manager, that has to worry you, but not really to worry you in the sense that how do you execute your project, but rather how do you become better in execution of those roles, which you must, of course, do. That meeting the triple constraints of time, budget, and scope is insufficient to guarantee business success. I'm certain you guys in this call could be aware of the triple constraints: time, we'll start with scope, time, and cost. And of course, we sometimes put quality in there. That yes, for the longest, success of projects have been measured along these matrices, time, cost, and scope. And we're not saying that we want to trash all this, not at all. But what we're saying is that these are no longer sufficient to guarantee business success. If they are no longer sufficient to guarantee business success, what then is the alternative? What then is the alternative? The alternative is value creation. The alternative is value creation. That besides the triple constraints, organizations want to really look into this concept of value, that projects are really nothing other than vehicles of value. That value delivery is now revolutionizing how organizations envision success, impact, and transformation. In lesson 6 of this particular course, we will look at, and later on I will talk about these different lessons and why I'm making reference to lesson 6. We shall talk about what we call benefits realization, which now is a very big concept, especially in the executive boardrooms, because executives are asking themselves, we're spending so much money into organizational, to do projects in an organization, but the question is, are we actually getting value of this project? And it's not just the value that is promised in the business case. You see, when you do your business case, I'll talk about the business. We shall talk about the business case, I think, in lesson 1. But when we talk about business value, many times we are always very optimistic that this is what the project shall give us. This is what the project. Benefits realization is that once the project is completed, into the future, how will that value that we promised in our business case, how shall it be realized? How shall it be realized? What then this calls upon us as project managers is to always think about project prosperity, that beyond the handing over of the project to your client or to either internal or external, what is the prosperity of this particular project? Project prosperity is the key thing, which is, of course, that's what we call in benefits realization. And of course, we have to be very, very aware of it. I remember once I was doing a presentation in an organization I was working. I was doing a presentation to a business case, been in projects for quite some time. And they did a good presentation. At least I knew I didn't sleep well that particular night because I had this presentation. And when I finished, the executive committee, the CEO, the board members and all. And the CEO then, I remember asking, well, thank you for a very good, presentation. But you see, what I failed to see in your presentation is how this value that you have really emphasized on here, how will it be realized beyond handing over the project to us? And quite honestly, I'm not prepared about that, So I really had to think on the go. My point there is that now clients are beginning to ask for more, not just for that you've done a project successfully, but what is the sustainability of this project? How are we going to get this value that you've promised? That is key. And I think it's important that we really do appreciate these concepts. And if we don't get anything for tonight, I think for me, as project professionals, we need to appreciate that projects are vehicles for value, and it should be enhanced as we look up at the project, always to think about the sustainability, the value realization beyond the project. Now, it's one thing to assemble project teams. Now, one thing is this: projects are never done by one person. We execute projects in a team, many people. And it's one thing to assemble a project team. Most of us are going to work in project teams. and we have these people, the organization is spending resources on them, perhaps quote unquote a very highly effective team. But the real challenge is always to get the team to work together, to get the team to work together to deliver the results that you desire. So project teams, it turns out that project teams aren't inherently set up for success, you see. And that is why most project teams will always underperform despite the extra resources that organizations would give them. But the question then is why? The question then is why? The answer is poor project leadership. Poor project leadership. And one of the key things or the cornerstones of the, of any project manager is this ability of not just managing the project, but leading the team, leading the project team, project leadership. Because remember, projects are done by people, for people. So we have to inherently always seek to see how can we make this group of individuals work as a team towards the realization of the goal. How can we make sure that we harness the collective intelligence of the team? I always tell people that, you see, as a good project leader, you always have to appreciate the concept that the collective intelligence of us as a team is far much superior than the intelligence of any one person in the team. So you find somebody who's an amazing person in the team, but we don't want to have them on the team because they are not helping us to gel together. So one of the key things for you to be able to deliver value in your projects is this ability of making sure that you are able to lead the team and lead the team well. So it turns out that also this is one of the reasons why organizations are really very keen on having good project managers, people who can not just good at technically managing their projects, but also people who have high emotional intelligence, good leaders, people who know about motivation theories and how we can use them to help the team to deliver more than they could just deliver themselves. Just a few statistics here. And I like what John Wooden says, that when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. And this is what Tron was telling us, that, you come to this session and I always see people coming to the PMP classes and they go through the classes, then 4 months down the line, they have not done the exam. Then once in a while, a job opportunity comes and then they call me, "Hi, Kevin, I forgot. How soon do you think I can do this PMP?" I tell them, what have you been doing? You should have been preparing so that when this opportunity comes, you are ready. You are ready. I mean, of course, I don't really sometimes blame them so much because a number of years ago, that is where I was. My PMP journey actually began because I did miss an opportunity. I went to an interview and to a very, one of the multinationals, they wanted a project engineer, East and Central Africa, and I did well because at least I went to the final interview. And I remember on the final interview, the single question they asked me is, well, you recognize that this is a project leadership role. What have you done to basically be ready for this role? Of course, I tried to fumble there a lot, but it turns out that they wanted somebody who had a PMP or a project management certification, which I did not have at that time. And later on, going to check, the organization at that time had about 55,000 employees, and about 35,000 were PMPs. I'm talking of IBM. That is the opportunity that made me to immediately start my PMP journey. And perhaps some of you are there or have been there. You understand what I'm talking about. Those of you who have not been there, I can tell you it's not a good spot to be in. So as John Gooden says, be ready before the opportunity knocks. because it might be too late to prepare. So let's look at a case for effective project management. One is that the world has become more projectized. Again, as Ron mentioned, there's this article in the Harvard Business Review. I could highly recommend it just to appreciate it. It's the project economy has arrived. That organizations, we're now in the era of the project economy. That we're seeing more and more organizations. You see, what used to happen traditionally is that most projects were deemed to be in the infrastructure space. So for the longest, the people who used to actually do project management were engineers, architects, IT people came later. Those are the people who are really considered to be doing project management because of, they build things that we can see. But of course, in the recent past, the fact that skills of project management can be used across all industries, we have seen it now. We are having so many people in the NGO sector, in the healthcare. We've had in our classes a number of doctors come and they want to do the PMP as well. So now education sector. So now we are in an era where we're saying that everybody needs project management skills because projects are everywhere. And because of the value that people do get from projects, that's basically the reason why this is happening. So projects and programs help organizations to achieve goals and strategic objectives. So the only way that organizations, this is a case for effective project management. The only way that organizations are able to realize their strategic objectives, we have a very beautiful strategy. How does that strategy come to life? Is through projects. We have to get people, we have to have a project manager, we have to designate resources so that then we can see this beautiful strategy that we went into a retreat to make sure that this strategy comes live. And we all know how much money is spent in all these strategic objectives, making sure that we're getting there. It's a lot of money. The question is value. Are we getting value for that money? Projects are nothing but vehicles for value. I think if you really to think even more closely, at government level, this is where even we see, 95% of government policies are delivered through projects, major projects. We now in Africa, we're talking of having an interconnected grid so that power in Ethiopia can be sold to Kenya, goes to Tanzania, goes down to Malawi, goes to Zambia, goes to Namibia, so that we have less power outages, goes to South Africa. So we are seeing all that. We are having, countries working towards making sure that the urban population is well housed. So 95% of major government policies can only be delivered through projects. Of course, the same question. Do you feel if you're getting value for money? Do you feel so? I'm not sure. That we can always answer on our own. Project management role is now more strategic than ever before. As I mentioned, before, as a project manager, your role was really make sure that we deliver the scope within time and cost. But now we are calling upon you to do more than that, to try to look into value and value realization. Because most of us, as it turns out, we will be involved from the early onset of the project, where we're the people defining this value, where we're the people planning on the execution. We always have to remind, especially our seniors, in the cases where they really do not know these things, that, hey, what is the value that this has to give us? Because at the end of the day, it's all about value realization. We must be able to push this value to the long term. So if a project is going to have a lifespan of 25 years, the question is, in those 25 years, how do we actually get the value that the project promised? With all this, we still have a vicious cycle of poor performance, low productivity, and major project failures. And that really is one of the reasons why we're saying that we're spending so much money that projects are so critical in the delivery of this strategy of the organization. And we're spending so much money in these projects at government level, organizational level, and even on a personal level. But we still have so much failures. Hence, the need to have good project managers, people who are not just good at their technical area, but also good in managing projects, very good in managing projects. That is important. Let's just see a few statistics in terms of just appreciate the global aspect of project management of figures we're talking about. And I like what Edward Deming said, that in God we trust, all others must bring data. So if I don't give you data this evening, I might just be giving you my opinion. So the rest of it, if I have no data, it's really an opinion. Global infrastructure investment is projected to require about 94 trillion by 2040, with an additional 3.5 trillion needed to meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and universal access to electricity, water. This translates to an average of investment of about 3.9 trillion, which is the highest, with the highest demands in the emerging markets. Of course, this is Africa and most of the sub-Saharan Africa. Again, significant. I mean, I just want you to appreciate the amounts of resources you're talking about there. Quite significant. This report is Africa Construction Focus. This is from Deloitte. It's say construction, but they look at construction in terms of the investments in terms of mega projects across Africa. Transport, energy, water, shipping ports, healthcare, oil and gas, social development, education, mining. This report only look at mega projects. What is a mega project? In project management, when you talk about mega project, this is a project which is worth 1 billion USD and above. So significant value, in terms of how much money is being spent in projects. It's good to appreciate the numbers and the investments. The construction market, of course, infrastructure again dominates, especially, again, we could appreciate why that is the case, because, of course, well, we're largely a developing nation. So developing nations, more developing economies, and we're not the most advanced economies. So you find that all this that we're talking about, there's a lot of money being pumped into this business of making sure that we are developing our schools, developing our healthcare, developing, of course, our roads and rail and all this. Now, with all this amount of money being pumped in, the quantum projects being failing is also high, about 40 to 45% over the years. This is from KPMG report. And goes ahead to say that, you see, annually, how much money we require about, the deficit. The African Development Bank estimates that the continent requires between 130 billion to 170 billion annually for infrastructure development. Again, just getting you to appreciate. You see how much. Sometimes it's important to appreciate. These are projects. These are projects we are sinking in money. The bigger question, definitely, at the end of the day, that what I want us to be able to appreciate and look at is, are we actually getting value for that? So organizations globally continue to find it difficult to deliver projects that meet all the project objectives around the iron triangle of time, cost, and scope, along with achieving the stakeholder satisfaction. That even when we say that the iron triangle, the triple constraints of scope, time, and cost, they are the bare minimum. Still, we are struggling. If I asked you guys, most of you said you're in projects. If we try to ask, how many of us have done a project which was late, we had a budget overrun and all, I'm sure we'll all appreciate this concept. Project management skills are hence in demand, with high volumes of projects being delivered across a wide scope of project types beyond infrastructure and technology areas. So this is what I was saying earlier, that we're witnessing increase of demand for project management, not just in the technology and infrastructure space, which traditionally, for the longest, these were the areas which were where you could find, most people, in projects. Now we have projects cutting across, and of course that is because of what we shall see later on. What really project management does to an industry, that ability to manage a project well, that ability to look at every project and try to see what value does it give, and try to link the strategy to the goals that are being delivered. So that's gotta be that's a key reason, one of the reasons why we're seeing, of course, so many people wanting to, of course, to upskill, and organizations wanting more people in the space of project management. PMI, according to PMI research, the number of project roles required globally by 2030 is about 25 million. These are cutting across all the industries. In the fintech industry, that we're seeing, I don't know if you've noted, the banking industry. I've been seeing lately in the banking industry, the kind of advertisements they're doing, they seem like they are requiring more people in projects than they used to require more people having accounting and the likes, because of course of especially the digital transformation happening around, the space of AI, and I think it really makes all the sense given the value and skills that project professionals bring on board. Now, given that we've seen all this, how do we move and look at success in complexity? That projects, as projects get larger and more complex, and of course, that is in design, in financing, in procurement, in risk, and of course, when all these things get complex, execution becomes not an easy thing. So, how then do you make sure that you are upping your game, to be in this environment where everything is changing? We are seeing, again, I've mentioned that today's rate of change is the slowest that we can ever see. That tomorrow, we expect the rate of change to be much, much higher than what we are witnessing today. So, complex projects and programs involve uncertainty and volatility. We say that we're now in a VUCA world. VUCA world. Do you guys know what VUCA is? Can I have that in the chat? What does V mean? Can I have that in the chat? Anybody? How many of us know what VUCA world, VUCA means? Can I have this in the chat? What does V mean? U, C, and A, VUCA. Anybody who knows what that means? Can I see that in the chat? Yeah, V mean, I see somebody says volatile. Okay, thank you. V for volatile. What does U mean? Uncertain. Good, thank you. C, yes. C, what does C mean? What does C mean? What does C stand for in the acronym VUCA? Complexity, yes. Thanks, Eric. Complexity. And what does A mean? What does A mean? What does A mean? Ambiguity. Good, thank you. So we're living in a VUCA world. We now know a volatile world, more uncertain, higher complexities, and of course, ambiguities everywhere. So you can imagine what that means to your project. What does that mean to your project? So we have to now think on how we must evolve to be able to thrive in such environment. In such an environment, we cannot just rely on the knowledge that we've had until today. Until today, it has served us well. But where we're going into the future, in the environment that we find ourselves in, I don't think the knowledge that we have today will serve us well. That is why, of course, continuous growth really is of value. 2022 Economist Intelligence Report, 80% of global executives believe that project management, having project management as a core competency helped them to remain competitive. Of course, this was in the wake of especially the pandemic. This research was just immediately after the pandemic, and they were just reflecting back. And of course, in that particular report, there were more into, the things that why they thought that project management was a core competency, help them. Of course, matters leadership was very, very vocal, at focus at that particular report. What does it take to be a future-ready PM? What does it take to be a future-ready PM to navigate this VUCA world as we have seen it? Number one, you must be good in your technical skills. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot turn away from being good in our areas of expertise. You're a doctor, you're a programmer, you're an NGO person, you're an architect, you're an engineer. Your technical skills are called upon. That we must keep abreast with your technical skills. But what we're saying is that technical skills alone are not sufficient to guarantee success. We must be able to understand business skills. Organizations, whether you're doing an IT project, whether you're doing an NGO project, people do not have infinite resources to just waste. We work with finite resources. You have to think, how does a decision I make today, how does it affect the bottom line? Because that is really what organizations are out to do. Organizations are out to have value. I don't want to talk about making a profit, because later on, when we look at value, we see that when we talk about value can be from different lenses, not just economic value, financial value, but we have value from different lenses. So it's just good to appreciate. You must be able to appreciate, how do I select project A over B? So we have to be aware and know things like, net present value, the payback period, internal rate of return, return on investment. What are those? Can you actually, if you are given a question, can you be able to tell us what the payback period is? Do you even know what a payback period is? If I gave you two projects with two payback periods, can you be able to select the best project? So that is what business skills really is all about. Being able to look at, our project from the lens of the business objective, Then, of course, leadership skills. We cannot overemphasize the need of leadership skills. That ability to be able to create a high-performing team, the ability to coach people, to give feedback, to listen well, emotional intelligence skills. That is really what leadership is all about. And at the heart of project success is project leadership. So in lesson 4, we shall take some time to just look at project leadership and really try to appreciate what are the skill sets we must develop so we can become better leaders. Skills like negotiation, the ability to negotiate well, the ability to actively listen, not just listening to the intent of replying, but listening with the intent of understanding, the ability to have empathy, emotional intelligence, and the likes. Then, of course, digital skills. Now we're in the era of AI, and we all do appreciate that. I mean, digital skills is kind of a must right now. We're trying to talk about, what are the skills that within your industry, within your field, will be replaced with AI. And we're not saying that AI will replace you, but what we say is that the individuals with AI skills will replace you, who is trying to remain with the same skills in the past. So be tech savvy, try to learn these things. AI has come, and I think we're seeing the transformation that it's causing around. So let's get to appreciate. The future project manager will be more in touch with the needs and demands of the organization. They will no longer solely be focused on the narrow scope of schedule and budget, but go beyond to deliver value. Value, value, value. The next currency in this field is about value. If you're in consulting, if you want to give, to differentiate yourself, we have to see what value you bring on board. So we cannot deliver value if we are not people of value ourselves. So that's really that's how we find ourselves. But value is a key thing now. In project management, right now we cannot talk about any project without thinking about the value realization. Value realization is a big, big, big deal. Previously, our focus was largely on the business case. In the business case is where we try to justify our value. But now people want to go beyond that business case and try to see, hey, how are you going to deliver this value that you promised? Now, let's look at I want us to, briefly, just look at the PMP certification. And I want to look at this in the context of it being a global, gold standard in the space of project management. And hopefully, you get to link with this idea of value creation and value generation within projects. How does this certification then position you as a person of value to be able to deliver the value that organizations are seeking? And I want to start with just getting to appreciate really, what is PMP? What is PMP? PMP is the project management professional. PMP is a project management professional. That is a certification. Sometimes I get somebody calling, hey, I want to do my PMI. No, there's nothing. PMI is a body that offers a certification. PMP is a certification. PMI offers a number of other certifications, but PMP is a certification that we are talking about tonight. So this is a project management professional. This is a globally recognized project management certification. It is a gold standard in matters project management. Whichever country you are in, whichever industry you are in, whether you're in the NGO sector, whether you're in the IT sector, whether you're in the whether you're in healthcare, whether you're an engineer, whether you're an architect, a QS, in the banking sector, it doesn't matter where you're in the education sector. This certification is not industry specific. Indeed, PMI do have some industry, no, they don't have many. They only have one industry specific certification. That is the PMI construction profession, which is industry specific. The PMP is not industry specific. It suits for any industry that you are in. It proves that you have the ability to lead projects in any organization and in any industry. The PMP certification is a mark of excellence in any location, in any industry. One of the best things about the PMP, of course, is the fact that you are applying for a job anywhere in this part of the world. You will always, if it's a project-related role, the PMP will give you that edge that you desire. And I think it helps many times. I also tell people that it helps to verify your ability, that you actually understand project management concepts, not just within your area, but globally recognized concepts in project management and values in project management and standards in project management. So that's really what the certification really stands for. Let's watch a short clip here, and then I'll progress.
50 years ago, when PMI was founded, project management wasn't a thing yet. But thanks to a fearless group of visionaries and passionate project leaders like you, project management is now a global profession. Every day, everywhere, we transform ideas into reality. But the world of work is changing fast, really fast. So is our profession, and so is PMI. We are expanding our focus, broadening the stories we tell and the roles we play, from start to finish, from inputs to outcomes, from frameworks to whatever works. With your help, we are building a world where people have the skills and capabilities they need to deliver value, no matter what project they're working on. It's a world where organizations deliver value to stakeholders through successful completion of projects, delivery of products, and alignment to value streams. We call this world the project economy. And at PMI, we power the project economy, strengthening society by enabling organizations and empowering people to turn ideas into reality. As we look ahead to our next 50 years, what role will you play?
So what role will you play? So let's talk a little bit about why earn the PMP certification. One is that the demand for skilled project professionals is on the rise. I think I've put that case. I don't want to belabor so much there. The PMP certification is designed for project professionals by project professionals for project professionals. So one of the good thing about the PMP certification, I mean, unlike many other, programs which, people come up, and this certification is by project professionals for project professionals. Indeed, we've had a number of people come to these classes, and they are masters in project. They're doing their masters in project management, or they have done a masters in project management. Once, I think we had two people who are doing their PhD in project management. And when you go through the entire course, you really get to appreciate the content of it. The depth of the content, because of how it's designed by project professionals for project professionals. The PMP adds value. The CIO magazine, Forbes magazine, and many other globally recognized consultancy firms have ranked the PMP as a top project management certification. I think for the last 10 years or so, the PMP delivers benefits. Most definitely, PMP credential holders can always negotiate for higher pay. Is this certification for you? Some of you on the call, and you're thinking, yes, it looks like something interesting, but what will perhaps influence your decision? One is your current or desired employer. Some of you work in an environment space where you basically deal with projects from morning to evening, Monday to Friday, even over the weekend. You're just thinking, will we be able to deliver this project on time? Will we be able to meet the timelines, the schedule, the budgets? Now, if that is your nightmare, then I think perhaps this could be the right place to start. Your professional development goals. We're now going into June and half year. We started. How many of us are still on track with those goals we set? The New Year resolutions we set in 2025. Maybe one was to grow professionally, by doing something that will enable you to advance your career. And I think shortly I talk about this certification in detail in terms of the content-wise, and hopefully you get to appreciate. We're not just talking about projects and project management alone. We're talking about deep stuff, about leadership, about your ability to manage people, about your ability to communicate well, personal growth, your current profession, your career path. What's your career path like? Where do you want to see yourself? You're thinking about working for some institutions, think of doing some World Bank projects and the likes. Maybe you might want to consider this certification, because it always gives you an edge in your career path. Indeed, when I first did my PMP, when I got my certification, the first major, contract that I was involved in was for a project funded by the World Bank up there in Addis, and it was a lucrative one that I cannot lie to you. It was quite lucrative. So, and that to me was I felt I got what I really desired, not because of the lucrativeness, but because of the visibility that it gave me, because somebody was able to notice that, hey, you have this thing, you have your engineering degree, we're looking for somebody with a PMP in engineering, and you think you fit the bill. And the rest is history, as I said. Well, so when I tell you I'm a product of the product, it's because I know the value it really has. So the desire to successfully implement your projects, you are a senior executive in an organization, and you're wondering, how can we consistently deliver well? Then the PMP will be a good starting point. Last month, I was somewhere in a resort, and with a couple of guys who are implementing World Bank projects, and this was they have a very huge budget for projects that they were doing, and they had to send about 15 senior executives just to appreciate, first and foremost, to understand, what Ron was saying. Sometimes it's even harder when your boss in the first place does not understand what this is. So they wanted to make sure that these people who are going to lead these projects actually understand project management, so that even as they push for good standards in project management in this particular project, they first of all understand what exactly is expected of them. But let me just take you a little bit of journey on how do you get, what are the qualifications? Because the PMP, again, this is not an entry-level certification, not at all. This is, PMI requires that you need to have some years of experience for you to do the PMP. Now, because I saw some people in the chat who are students, so if you have not graduated or you just graduated, you don't have years of experience, then I perhaps would recommend that you look at what we call the Certified Associate in Project Management, CAPM. This will be a very good starting point for you, good stepping point into project management. This is a certification, entry-level certification. The PMP certification, on the other hand, you need to have your degree. You need to have at least 36 months. That is 3 years in projects. Now, you don't need to necessarily have been a project leader or a project manager, project coordinator, but you need to have been in projects. So because this will be validated, will have to be validated when you're doing your exam, and we will of course take you through the process of doing this. So nothing to worry. If you have 3 years experience working in one project or another, then you perfectly fit the bill. Then of course, if you have the first two, this particular class will give you the 35 contact hours that PMI requires. You need to have the training. PMI requires that you have this training before you can sit for the PMP exam. Now, if you do not have a degree, but you have a diploma, that is still perfectly okay. The only thing that PMI requires more, different from you, is that your years of experience will be more. Instead of 36 months, you require 60 months of project management experience. That is a total of about 5 years. So that is really what that's about, the journey. So PMI, of course, I said that this certification is offered by PMI. PMI is based in the US, but of course they have local chapters. So we have a chapter in South Africa. We have a local chapter in South Africa. We have a local chapter in Kenya, in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Nigeria, Botswana. So most countries generally tend to have local chapters. Not all countries. There's some countries which do not have local chapters, but I mean, why not? You can start the chapter yourself. So the chapters we are closer to the chapters. So we always encourage, if you are beginning this journey or when you're a PMP, to be closer to the local chapter. So be a member of a PMI Kenyan chapter like I am, a PMI Ugandan chapter, PMI Rwanda chapter. And the organized events, we mentioned at the beginning that in August we shall be in Rwanda because there's a global summit, a PMI global summit for Africa. So all these African chapters, last year, but one, it was in Kenya. Last year, it was the one that is in Rwanda this year, was to be there last year, but it was postponed because of a breakout that happened last year in Rwanda, but we will be there this year. So you might want just to consider the local chapters. They are closer to you than the global organization, which is based in the US. Now, I want to jump straight into for me, the most important part of this particular evening, and this is what the PMP course entails, And I want to look at this course content in the spectrum of the value chain that we've been talking about, from all the way from the initial part of the project to now the delivery and benefits realization. So this course aims at making sure that we all understand the key knowledge areas of project management, the key areas of managing any project. The first one is project integration management. This is the first one, but I want to put an asterisk on it. I'll come to it later. I want to explain it the last one because of the relevance of the other areas to this particular area. So project scope management, we must understand, if you are a project manager worth their salt, we cannot execute any project without understanding what is the scope of the project. What is the scope of the project? And when we talk about project scope management, it is important to understand that we can look at scope at two levels. We can look at scope in the sense of the product scope and the project scope. Of course, in project management, we don't try to distinguish that, but it's important that we understand that we have what we call the product scope and the project scope. What is the product scope? The product scope, product, and then we have the project. Product scope, of course, has to deal with the features, functions, characteristics of your product, of what we want the end result of our project. Remember, every project has a deliverable, has an outcome. It has a unique product, service, or result. So this product, what are the features? What are the functions? What are the characteristics of this? So you tell your architect that, hey, I want you to do for me a 3-bedroom house, and the architect gives you a 4-bedroom house instead of 3. That is not the product you want. When you go to the, to look for a phone, you're looking for a camera which has particular megapixels, has a particular life, battery life, has a particular, screen size. Those are features of a product. That is a product scope. That's a product scope. The project scope, on the other hand, is what you have to do to deliver this project. Your logistics for the phone that we talked about, marketing, the R&D that you have to do to be able to increase the battery life so that people can be able to have that longer battery like the one. The marketing exercise that you have to do to take it to market, and all those things. In your construction project, this will be the health, the compliance things that you have to do for your project. All those things which they are not part of the product scope, but they are necessary to be able to deliver the product. Now, why is it important for us to bother so much about the product? About the scope. We have to understand about the scope so that we can be able to appreciate what are the boundaries of our project. How do we align the expectations? Now, projects have stakeholders. And we shall see who are stakeholders. But these stakeholders, they have expectations, they have interests, they have desires in this particular project. But it is likely that sometimes the expectations of your stakeholders do not align with what the project is going to give. Where do we get that alignment? That alignment, we get it from clearly defining the scope of work so that we tell people, hey, this is our scope of work, not what you are expecting, which is on this side. That is not what the project really entails. But more importantly for you, as a project manager, the project scope helps you to plan your project. If you do not know your scope of work, how do you know the duration that project is going to take? How do you know the resources the project is going to take? How do you know the potential risks of your project? How do you know what measures you have to put in place to be able to attain the quality? It is impossible to be able to do that without understanding what the scope of work is. So it is important that we understand this concept of scope and understand it well. And we shall endeavor in these particular sessions to just make sure that we understand this concept of scope and understand it well. We must be able to understand, of course, how do we come up with a scope of work? How do we come up with a scope of work? By defining requirements and getting to appreciate. We're going to be able to look at scope statement and, of course, the scope baseline and how we delineate many things around scope. But this is one area that you really must understand it very well for the sake, of course, of your managing your project and managing it well. And of course, in here, this is also where you try to look at the value that your project's going to give at the end of the day. Project schedule management. This is all about trying to make sure that we are delivering the project scope within the time frame that we promise our client. One of the key things, anytime I've done a project, one of the key things that people will always ask me, hey, how long will this project take? How much will it cost? The two most commonly asked questions in any project, how long and how much initially. So we must be able to tell people how long this project is going to take. We must be able to, of course, understand the sequencing of activities to be able to appreciate the duration of the project. So here, our major focus will just be for you to be able to understand the different dependencies, getting the logical flow of activities in your project, getting to appreciate the estimation techniques. If you are told tomorrow, hey, can you come up with an estimate for your time, for your budget? Can you be able to estimate? Because it is important that you be able to estimate using historical data, using what we shall see, the bottom-up estimation technique, the parametric estimation technique, and many other estimation techniques, which are very key for this. But also, a key concept here is for you to be able to understand what we call the critical path method, the CPM, the critical path method. Very, very important, what it is. And here, perhaps some of you already know something about the critical path, but I think here our focus is on your ability to make decisions using this concept of critical path. So what decisions can you make? Decisions, for example, of trying to compress the schedule, trying to reduce the time frame for your project. Decisions, for example, on optimizing resources for your project. Those are important decisions that you have to make. And of course, just trying to appreciate how you can represent your schedule using different approaches, Gantt chart, your network diagrams, your milestone charts, your roadmap, etc. Cost management, we cannot talk about project management without talking about cost. Why so? Because resources cost money. Resources cost have a financial implication. So cost is an important aspect in any project. You really must understand the project. Again, as I mentioned, organizations do not have infinite resources. One of the reasons why organizations want you on board as a project manager is because of your ability to try to make rational decisions, hopefully to deliver the project on budget, on budget. So notice that so far we've talked of this, the triple constraints: scope, time, and cost. Cost is very key. Interesting here, in terms of cost, when you talk about cost, one of the things that we shall also be very keen is how to try to take care of risks within our budget. How do we take care of risks within our budget? And this, of course, you need to appreciate things like the management reserve, contingency reserve. What are they? How do they really help us, of course, to be able to have a good budget, a realistic budget for that matter. Project quality management, I think we cannot belabor. We say that we have our qualities in there, in that iron triangle. We cannot deliver, if we are to deliver for prosperity, if we are to deliver value beyond the handing over of the project, then quality must be one of those things that we have to think about from the initial part of the project. Now, for those of you who handle contracts and contract management, it is important to appreciate this idea of scope, very important. I talk about scope. And if you think about the entire project, scope and scope definition is what we call the upstream side of projects. Then we are now the downstream side of project is in the execution of it. So quality is defined on the upstream side. When we are in the project, when we're defining the scope, we need to define what quality is. We need to define what quality is even as we define scope. So very important to be able to appreciate. So here, we will be able to appreciate things like, of course, the fathers of quality, what is 3QM, how do we define quality, but most importantly, what are the costs of quality? What are the costs of quality? The cost of conformance, the cost of non-conformance. What does that mean? What does that mean? What is the impact of scrape and reworks? Where do we classify that? Your ability to be able to classify different costs of quality. But most importantly, again, is how do we make sure that we monitor and control quality? So you need to understand things like the 7 quality control tools and how they're used, the Pareto chart, the cause and effect diagram, the check sheets and the likes. So the histograms, and those are things that the fishbone diagram, most important, just to get to appreciate the aspects of quality. That is what we shall be focusing there. Project resource management. Oh my goodness, how can we talk about projects without mentioning resources? Now, resources is what we use to execute projects. Now, in project management, when you talk about resources, I want you to always think about human resources and physical resources. Human and physical resources. Human resources and physical resources. And this is what this topic is really all about. Now, when we talk about resources, it's important to appreciate that the first most important thing is, how are these resources going to be acquired? Are they internal? Are they external? Now, organizations every single day, they make decisions on the make or buy decision. Do we make? Do we buy? Do we lease? Do we buy? Do we rent this office space? Do we build our own office? Those are decisions that we have to make also in projects. Do we acquire this particular resource, or do we actually outsource this particular activity instead of acquiring a person? We need to understand what intricacies go into that when we are making those make or buy decisions. But most importantly, getting to appreciate that we are not going to have all resources available internally. So sometimes we have to acquire some resources externally. What does that mean? If we are to acquire external resources, we have to link resource acquisition to procurement. Link resource acquisition to procurement. But I want us also to mention one thing. This topic of resources is very key. Why so? It's because what determines the duration for your project is the resources that you have. So when we're looking at project schedule, we need to appreciate the concept of resource optimization. Then we have to appreciate, because remember, a task that we can do in 1 month, we can do it in 2 months, in 2 weeks, if we give you more resources. But what is how do we optimize those resources? So as we look at the schedule, it's important to link it to our resources. Then of course, because resources come at a cost, we have to appreciate the value, how do we cost all this? So you will find that many projects, when you're talking about schedule, we are talking about resources and we're talking about cost almost simultaneously, because they are intertwined. They are intertwined. Now, in resource management, another very important thing for us to appreciate, especially when it comes to the human resource is a concept of leadership, the concept of leadership. And this is a big area. Again, I mentioned project leadership is so fundamental in this area, in this topic, in this course, that we really have to give it the emphasis it deserves, because we do projects through people. We do projects through people. Your success as a project manager is on the effectiveness of your team. So very, very key focus there. So human resources, what is important there? Motivation theories, getting to understand how do you motivate people. Some of you could be knowing the motivation theories, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the 2-factor theory, and the room's expectancy theory. How do we use them? What is their relevance in the whole of this spectrum? Very key to appreciate. Then, of course, we have to appreciate the concept of communication. Communication is so fundamental in project management. You will be surprised the amount of time we spend communicating, between different persons in the project. Communication is so fundamental. At the heart of any project success is communication. So important is communication that you find that when we're executing projects, in some contracts, communication is a clause. Just illustrating how communication should happen within the project. In some projects, you actually cannot start seeking, an interim payment before you set up a communication system, a project management information system which will help you communicate. That is how serious, especially at the international level now, for large projects, I've seen this, especially in infrastructure projects, very fundamental. Communication is so key that we really must get to appreciate. But here, of course, we will look at a number of things, including active listening, communication channels. How do we calculate the number of channels we have depending on the number of people we have, and the likes. All these are fundamental things, of course, for you to be able to pass your PMP exam. Project risk management. Project risk management. How do you become that proactive project manager? Not just being reactive to the circumstances as they happen. When do you plan your project? We plan for a project today, but we execute the project into the future. We have a time lapse. Wherever you have a time lapse, we have uncertainty. Wherever we have uncertainty, we have risk. You see? Now, if we were to look at this in the context of a graph, we'll have something like this. This is risk or stroke uncertainty. Uncertainty is what creates really risks. This is time. We have something like this. The risk is highest at the beginning of the project. When we begin the project, because when we begin the project, there's so much time lag. You're planning the project today, the project is going to be executed in the next 2-3 years. The time between today and 3 years is so many days. As we go more into the project, as we go closer to the end of the project, the risk profile for your project diminishes. The risk profile diminishes. But here, we will be interested to know a number of things, for example, risk appetites, how we define risks, the risk management process, the risk response strategies, how do we respond to these risks? Because it's important that we really monitor our risks, because our risks can affect all these other areas of the project that we have said. So very fundamental area. We want to appreciate it and give it the due time and respect it deserves. Then, of course, procurement management, again, as I said, we'll be linking this with resources management. And here, our focus will also be just getting to appreciate also the different types of contracts that you have at your disposal. What dictates when to use the time and material contract, for example? What are the risk levels when you're using a fixed price contract or lump sum contract? When do we use the time and material contract? Because all those are things that we need to appreciate, because as we acquire resources, we acquire them through a procurement process. And procurement is a very contractual process. Procurement is a contractual process because one party is supplying goods or services and the other party has to pay. So we need to have a contract which will safeguard the interests of all the parties. And of course, that contract will be able to allocate risks. So we shall be able to see the risk profiles of different types of contracts and when and where to use them. Of course, project stakeholder management, very fundamental. One of the reasons why most projects fail is purely because we did not engage with your stakeholders well. You did not engage with your stakeholders well. And today, more than ever, people are so aware of these projects that you're doing. So the question then is, how do we engage with these stakeholders? Stakeholder engagement, very fundamental, from first of all, identifying the stakeholders and trying to manage them well, communicating. Remember, we communicate to the stakeholders. So communication, your communication strategy and that how you engage your stakeholders is very, very key. Of course, we have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Now, that's a very high level summary of what really the course entails. But not to lose you is, of course, the concept of, integration management. I've so far looked at these things as if they are happening independently, but that's not the case. As a project manager, one of the biggest roles you have to do is to make sure that you are integrating all these things so that you're delivering the project as one unified project. So as you do your schedule management, you have to think about your resources, you have to think about the potential risks, how they will affect the schedule, you have to think about what particular stakeholders. As you think about stakeholders, you think about procurement strategy. So all these things, we not like compartmentalize them so that we when we're talking about scope, we just talk about scope. When you talk about schedule, just talking about schedule, not at all. As a project manager, all these things are always going through your head as you plan your work and all. So the essence of this course is, by the end of it, you should be able to appreciate project management from end to end. But that is not it. That is not just it. In 2021, PMI introduced us now into a new concept that most of you are going to learn, which is on agile project management. Now, part of this class, what we're going to do is to take you through agile project management. What is agility? How does it play in the space of project management? How do you become dynamic? How do you become more flexible? What determines, when to use agile methodology and when not to use it? So that is going to be a key thing as well. Actually, your PMP exam is 50% agile and hybrid questions, 50% traditional waterfall projects. So we shall be able to see what is this concept, what is this animal we're calling agility. So very, very key. And I must say that it's one area that most of you will potentially love. So in any profession, we always say that if you want to be successful, you have to distinguish yourself in some way. So, by the way, in case you have any question, I hope you're asking them in the chat. My colleague Ron and Brenda will be answering you. Ordinarily, we usually have a break at in the normal classes. We have a break at 7:30, but because I want to give time at the tail end for any Q&A which has not been, which we could have missed, I want to make sure that we won't take a break now. Take your break at your own time so that I finish this early, then we can have some time to interact. So if you want to be successful, you want to distinguish yourself in some way. I want to put you that given what you have seen, this is one of the best ways to differentiate yourself, to make sure that you are standing out of the crowd. So the PMP exam has 3 domains. I don't want to belabor so much here because, again, we'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow. But let me just mention, your exam will be focusing on the people domain, the processes domain, the business environment domain. Basically, now, all those knowledge areas I've talked about, anything that talks about people and leadership and all, that will be classified under the people domain. So emphasizing the skills and activities associated with effectively leading a project team. The processes domain will be anything that deals with the technical aspects of managing the project. Coming up with your scope, coming up with your schedules, coming up with your costs, your risk management and all, that will be under the processes domain. The business environment domain, this is anything that will be talking on how to trying to highlight the connection between projects and the organizational strategy. Again, as I mentioned, that projects are out to deliver value, and how organizations make sure that we are actually delivering value is by always trying to make sure that we are linking the strategy to the project to the strategy. Actually, the first module of this class will be on the business environment. Just trying to understand the linkage between strategy and projects, because unless we link that, we will be just doing projects for the sake of doing projects. But I think that is anti-value. That is not delivering the value that we promise our clients to do, especially through our business cases. So just to give you a mindset, some hints, your PMP exam, you shall have 180 questions on your exam. Your exam will be 180 questions. You have 230 minutes to complete your exam. Now, the PMP exam is a scenario-based exam. Now, you're not going to cram your way into success. Not at all. Your PMP exam requires that you will be given a scenario, then using the knowledge that you will have, of course, gotten from this class. Now, can you be able to answer those, what could you do as a project manager in that particular scenario? So it's precisely because of that PMI demands that you have some experience in projects, that you're not so fresh in projects. So if you're so fresh in projects, perhaps especially in the working area, in the work environment, then you perhaps might want to take the certified associate in project management. Again, you can always talk to Ron or Brenda on how you can do that as well. We also offer that. So you have 230 minutes to complete the exam. And most questions, this is an MCQ, that's a multiple choice questions. There will be multiple choice questions. But given on scenarios, but I can tell you for free, those scenarios, some of them are so confusing. I tell people in the exam, sometimes you find that the question has two correct answers. You have to choose the most correct answer when you have two correct answers. What is the most correct answer? Sometimes you get questions like, what will the project manager do first? You see, when you're told what will the project manager do first, it means that the other multiple choices are also things that the project manager will potentially do, but it's just that you will not do them first. There's something else that you have to do first. So sometimes it can be very confusing, but don't worry. That is why we do exist. That is why we take you through all this. So what is the investment for this? Very valuable certification to be more valuable. The training fee for this course is 40,000 Kenyan shillings. That's $350 for those of you outside Kenya who don't understand this Kenyan shillings business. So it's 350 USD or 40,000 Kenyan shillings. The PMP exam is $284 if you are a PMI member. So PMI membership is $109. So you can pay for PMI membership, and then you take the advantage of the exam. So the total of this option is $393. Now, I always encourage people to be PMI members. Then you take the advantage of the exam discount. Now, if you do the exam as an unmember, you pay $575. Of course, it doesn't really make economic sense to do that. Why will you do that? And you can pay $393 as a cumulative figure. Now, the PMP, the PMI membership also gives you advantage to some resources, which we shall talk about on the last day of the class. There's some resources that you will require for your revision, and there's some three very critical books which you get once you pay for your membership. So by all means, it makes much sense to be a PMI member. Now, if of course you're thinking of joining the next class, that QR code, if you scan it, you should get a link to that particular session. But I'm sure also that link is shared on the chat. I want to take a small commercial break so I can take some water. So let's watch into this small clip.
In the realm of business, where success is earned and leadership is defined, there's a path that stands above the rest. Welcome to the Project Management Professional Masterclass PMP by Peak Point Consulting Group, a journey that unlocks your potential and sets you on the trajectory of excellence. Join the ranks of over 1.4 million esteemed credential holders, worldwide individuals who have proven themselves. Statistics don't lie. These aren't just numbers. They are your passport to professional success. At Peak Point Consulting Group, we don't just train, we mentor. We don't just educate, we empower. With our PMI authorized training partner status, we bring you unmatched expertise, unparalleled insights. With the Project Management Professional Masterclass, you don't just learn, you transform. You don't just manage, you lead. The PMP isn't just a certification. It's a symbol of excellence, a testament to your dedication to delivering results. Prove yourself with the PMP. Elevate your potential, your career, and your future. Peak Point Consulting Group, empowering leaders, transforming futures.
Okay, Everyone I see on the chat, people are requesting for the QR code. You can share the link. I think that will be faster so that I can progress. I see some people asking how they can join, so you can just share the link so that they can join. So the content of how this class is structured, the 4 weeks. Now, the evening class, which is basically beginning today, is distributed over 4 weeks. So we begin today, the next 20 days, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. East African time. That will be perhaps 5 p.m. Central Africa time. And for some of you, it might be a little bit earlier. You will check your time zone. 6 to 9 p.m. We will be looking at the first lesson will be lesson or module business environment. Again, so each of these lessons has a number of topics under them. So you find business environment. So we talk about 5 or so topics. Then they start the project about 5 other topics. Plan the project. This is where we talk about all those knowledge areas that we've seen about planning the project. Then leading the team, lesson 4. This is largely around the space of leadership and leadership abilities and skill set that you require. Then the support the project team. It's about making sure once the project is in progress, how do we make sure that we actually making sure that the team is delivering at their level best. So we will be having looking at things like and value management here, the 7 quality control tools that I mentioned, and a number of other interesting things. Of course, lesson 6 will be about closing the project. This is where we bring into a sharp focus this idea of value and value realization, because as we close the project, we want the project to live into prosperity. We don't want just to finish the project for the sake of finishing the project, but we want to finish the project making sure that we're actually handing it over to a success. That is what that is how the content will be organized. But of course, because I mentioned that we will be having the agile aspect, so one of the things that we shall start with from tomorrow is what we call agile. So we will have a lesson 0, which will be introducing you to agile and agile concepts. What is agile? What are agile concepts? When is agile methodology used in project management? Can you try to borrow these concepts into the other traditional way of doing projects? And sure enough, we shall see very many cases we actually do borrow those concepts and those terminologies. The objectives, ladies and gentlemen, of this course is to enable you to master. It's been designed to make sure that you master advanced concepts of project management. Of course, that is culminating to you verifying the same by passing your PMP exam. So to enable you, it's designed to have you have an in-depth understanding of project management practices, both agile and predictive environments. You now will, from tomorrow, you'll begin to get this gist of this concept of agile and predictive, because it's very important. You will see us using those terminologies throughout this course. Apply project management techniques to your project. So we should hope that you get some techniques that you can apply almost immediately. One of the things I love about this class is when we finish the class and somebody says, there's something I've learned and I'm already using it in my projects. I think to me, that is the best case scenario. And we really hope that enough of you, before you get your PMP, people should notice a difference by virtue that you are in this class. That is really what we really hope, that at the end of it, you being in this class enables you to be able to do things that when people see you talk and how you do your projects, they can see there's a difference. So of course, this training gives you the 35 contact hours. This is a prerequisite for you to do your PMP exam. And of course, it is our hope and belief that if you go through this class, commit to every single day. There will be days you might not manage to get to the classes, but all the classes will be recorded. If you do so, then you should be able to pass your exam on the first attempt. Now, when you finish the class, this is a sample of how your certificate looks like. Your name will be there. Of course, these dates will be different. Basically, just have to appreciate how your certificate looks like. And then, of course, again, to reiterate our promise, is that this is going to be the most comprehensive PMP training course in the market, not because I said so, but because they said so, and you can check that on the Google reviews. I think we have excellent reviews. This is a while back. Now we've more than that. But the point is that the reviews have been amazing. Those of you who follow us on LinkedIn, you see the success stories of people who are coming and passing their PMP exam. So we don't just say it, we don't brag, but we have the evidence. So let's just
I thought I knew how to do every project, manage every project, but when I became a PMP certified, it brought structure and results, and brought a shape and form into how I manage and deliver projects. Currently, I'm an Operational Excellence Coordinator at Texas Department of Transportation. Becoming a certified project manager is like one of those serendipities. I was a little stubborn. I did not see the importance of being certified since I was doing the job already. If I had known what I know now, I could have been certified 20 years ago. And I was able to learn quick. I was able to lead other certified PMPs to mentor hundreds of others. If you work in an environment that is innovation-driven, you're going to need PMP skills to be able to walk toe-to-toe with those other people who are in the innovation space. PMP gives you a competitive advantage in the crowded job market. My name is Benjamin Anyacho, and I am a PMP.
So the beauty about the PMP again is that across the globe, you will find all of us there in this space, which is a good thing, by the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to enjoy the journey. And as you begin the journey, I always tell people, I want you to wear your PMI hat. What is your PMI hat? And tomorrow, one of the things we shall do tomorrow is we'll have a brief intro about an hour or so, just to introduce, get to know you, get to know, where you come from, your industry, your years of experience, and what your expectations for the class are. And there's no time we began this class and we didn't have, combined experience in the class will perhaps be more than 100 years. So most of us will be, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years experience in project management. And there's a particular way how we have done projects. Now that is your job hat, and it has made you successful so far. Now, as we go through the course, you might find that there are things that is not how you do things in your projects. Now, this exam is from PMI. PMI has given us ways in which we want the best practices. Remember, these are gold standard in project management. So as you go through these things, and sometimes you find that is not how I've done things, perhaps, just perhaps, you could be doing the wrong things. So we will want to change how you do those things into the right way. So we will want you to wear the PMI hat. That is how you'll be successful in your PMP exam. As we go along the way, we will endeavor to make sure that you have pop quizzes so that they reinforce this idea of your PMIzing, how you should reason through, concepts, especially through the exam, which I think is also very key for most of you. Just besides going through the training, we also want to make sure that you become PMPs and have the 3 coveted letters after your name. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to enjoy the PMP journey. And I don't want you to start enjoying the PMP journey tomorrow. I want you to start enjoying it right now. So what? We go. We jump straight into the content. I'll do a brief introduction into the course content. But of course, most of this, we shall be engaging with it tomorrow onwards. So the first thing, of course, is always to get to appreciate what is a project. What is a project? Because, we will be spending the next 4 weeks here talking about project management. For us to talk about project management, we must know what a project is, right? I think so. It's just a fair thing to do. So what is a project? What is a project? If we're in a meeting setting, I could allow a few of you to speak up So we know what your school of thought is on a project. But because you cannot speak, let me go straight and tell you what a project is now. A project is defined by PMI, the PMBOK guide, as the Project Management Body of Knowledge guide, as a temporary endeavor. It's a temporary endeavor to deliver a unique product, service, or result. Now, this idea of product, service, or result, note it very well, because when we should be defining scope, when we talk about the product scope, we shall revisit this concept of product. We shall revisit this concept of product. When we shall talk of quality, we shall review this concept of product, because at the end of the day, it's the product that is going to deliver. The value that we are delivering in a project is in the product, is in the product. It is the product that is going to outlive the project. So it's important to appreciate that, so that as we talk about value realization, it is how are we using this product? How are we making sure that we are transiting this product into a state where people can actually use that for the value that we're promising, right? So important to appreciate that a project is a temporary endeavor to deliver a unique product, service, or result. Service or result. So it creates a unique product, service, or result. It is time limited. So project has to be time bound. We cannot have a project going into eternity. There has to be a starting point and a finish point. It drives change. Projects help organizations move from one state to another, from state A to state B. Projects help to drive change. They enable value creation for a business organization. Now, I've said this before, that the only way organizations realize their strategic objective, their strategy, is through projects. So we enable value creation through projects. So project success depends on many things. Again, we shall continue seeing this throughout this course. The organization project maturity. What is the maturity level of the organization? For some of you, you work in organizations which are so mature project-wise. There's a structure in which how you do projects. You even have templates that you use for your projects. You even have reporting templates for your project. That is a maturity level. There's some sense of maturity in project execution within the organization. Organizations which tend to be more mature, they have structured way of doing projects, they have structured matrices for measuring success of projects. They tend to be more successful in project execution than again, of course, that also means even the organizational structure. Some organizational structure, we shall see that in the first lesson or from tomorrow, perhaps sometime this week. Some organizational structures support the success of the project. Others stifle that success. So organizational project maturity is very key, and that also helps, it influences the success of the project. The project manager's effectiveness. How effective is a project manager? Now, in the era of complexity, of volatility, of uncertainty, and ambiguity, projects are becoming more complex. The more complex a project is, if we were to rate them, those can be classified like A project managers because of the level of complexity. The less complex projects can be maybe C's or D's. Now, if you have an A project, in terms of the complexity and the ambiguities in that project, you cannot deliver such a project with a project manager whose skill sets are at a D. A D project manager cannot deliver an A project. So in what I'm telling you, by the way, in some organizations, that is so real. What they do, they will classify projects in terms of complexity, in terms of difficulty, in terms of the budget. So, and then they will look at their project managers, they will classify their skill sets. So if, for example, you do not have a certification, they will tell you cannot manage this kind of project. That happens in other companies. And it's just because of the value that they want. They're saying that we're pumping in so much money into this project. If it's more complex, then if we cannot have somebody who understands concepts of project management, how possibly are they going to deliver this project? So funding and resource availability, even if you have an A project manager, if you don't have resources, then sure enough, that project will die. Well, actually, when in lesson 6, we shall look at why projects die, why we kill projects sooner before delivery of the objectives. And one of the things will be this idea of funding. If we do not have funding, then unfortunately, the success of that project is really will be at limbo. The team member skill set. Do the team members have the skill set you require? What are the skill levels of team members? In the current setting, in the current job setting, and irrespective of industry, we're now talking of having a T-shaped individual. What is a T-shaped individual? Who is a T-shaped individual? We want team members who have T-shaped individuals, people who have skill set, not just on one area of one breadth, but also broad knowledge in other areas. So that is why, you know, in organizations we're seeing this push towards people having many skills. Yes, you have a core skill, but what other skill set do you have beside your one key skill? That's a major one, because that helps the success of the project. Now, that is going to be very fundamental, especially when you talk about agile project management and agile project teams. In agile project teams, we say that they are self-organizing, and having T-shaped individuals, having skill sets which are multifaceted, helps to deliver such kind of projects. Collaboration and communication within the project team and other stakeholders, of course, understanding the core problem and the related needs of the project. In organizations, we are likely to be either in projects or operations. We are likely to be either in projects or operations. I always tell people, it doesn't mean that one is better than the other, not at all. We deliver projects, but the value of your product, service, or result is going to be realized through proper operations. You can deliver a perfect road, but if operations of that road is not, if we do not handle that road properly in terms of operation and maintenance, that road will have potholes in the next couple of days. You know, we have to recap it. We have to see where is a crack developing and try to repair it and all. That's operations. So projects are temporary endeavors. Operations are ongoing routines. They create original work. They create repetitive work. They are unique. We have a unique product. We have a repetitive output. It introduces change. Operations, other than they keep the business ongoing. So just as much as we want projects, we invest in projects, we also want to make sure that once we have handed over the result, the product, that we have a way in which this project can, this result, this product can be able to give us the value that is promised. So we always say that operations are necessary. Operations are necessary even as we are talking about projects. So it's not to compare them in the sense that, you know, one is better than the other, but just to get to appreciate the differences between the two. But of course, in organizations, you must have the two because that is a necessity. They're performed by people and resources. There's some similarities. Also, they have constrained by limited availability of resources. Again, as I mentioned, that we don't have infinite resources. We have very finite resources for both projects and operations. Then, of course, they are planned, executed, and controlled. Joy Goom says that operations keep the lights on. Strategy provides a light at the end of the tunnel, but project management is the train engine that moves the organization forward. So both are necessary. Both are necessary. Again, I mentioned that projects drive change. Projects drive change. Projects drive change in organizations. From a business perspective, a project is aimed at moving an organization from one state to another, from state A to state B. How many of you, by show of a thumbs up, how many of you have heard about Africa Union Agenda 2063? Anybody? By thumbs up? Anybody? Okay, see one person. Only one person. Africa Agenda Union. Okay, a couple of people. Now, for those of you who do not, please just Google that document and read through it, because I mean, most of you are from African countries. I did see. It's good to appreciate what is the agenda of the African Union 2063. That is basically the aspiration. Now, if you look through that document, it is basically the aspiration. It is where we aspiring to be in 2063. And in there are a number of projects. So those are meant to drive change from where the African countries are now to the future. And countries will also sometimes have, Kenya has a vision 2030. I know Uganda, Rwanda has a vision, is it vision 2060, if I'm not wrong? But the point is that we want to move somewhere. And if you check through these visions, the underlying key thing is the idea of projects, that there's a project they want to do here to be able to eradicate poverty. There's a project they want to do here to be able to increase the power supply so that power can become cheaper, so that they can, enhance business. If you look through, it's something that they want to drive value. And that's really the key concept of value creation that we're talking about. Projects also enable business value creation. Projects enable business value creation. And what is value? Value is a net quantifiable benefit, tangible or intangible. Value is a net quantifiable benefit, tangible or intangible, from a business endeavor. Benefits realization is based on the declared business value. So where do we declare business value? In terms of project, and we shall look at some of these documents later on, when we're looking at this substantively, the content, we have, for example, a business case. In the business case, we try to justify, why we should do projects, and we try to enumerate some value there. Then, of course, that value has to be checked later on in the benefits realization document. So how are we going to realize this benefit? The benefits realization document also tries to focus on that. So very important. So I will not belabor so much on this because we will be looking at this later on. And this is really on lesson 1, we shall look at the different types of business value. But because I've been talking about value, it's important that I just let you know that value is not just financial, because sometimes it's very easy to imagine value as being financial, but not at all. But we have different, for those of you who work for NGO projects, it could be a social project. Those of you who work for government and government agencies, sometimes it's about a social project. When you electrify a slum area or a city or a street within a city, and you reduce insecurity, you make sure that the business in the villages are running longer hours. They don't have to go home because it's dark. They can work up to 10. You are enhancing, that is value. How do you quantify that? It might not be realized financially. You might not quantify that financially, but we can see livelihoods improving. Those of you who, especially in the NGO sector, the work that you do, we might not see, unlike those of us who are in the infrastructure space, when we build a road, when we build a dam, when we build an airport, we can see it, but there is so much also in the social fabric that we cannot negate. It is all important. It's necessary. So value can be looked from different lenses. So it's just good to appreciate that, so that we don't just wear the lens of finance to look at business value as the only value that we have in projects. Not at all. We have different types of values, and it's important to appreciate that even when you're presenting our different business cases. Another thing that we perhaps need to appreciate is this concept of organizational influences, that projects do not occur in a vacuum. Projects don't occur in a vacuum, that your projects occur in a space larger than the project itself. So your project is here, but it's not in a vacuum. It's within an enterprise. And the organization might be having a number of projects. We have 5 projects ongoing at the same time. So notice that the project is not occurring in a vacuum. There are so many factors around, in the enterprise that are affecting the success of your project. This is important for us to appreciate. And this is what we're talking about: enterprise environmental factors. The enterprise environmental factors. The factors which affect your project, but you as a project manager and your project team, you have no control over them. You have no control over them. And you have to make decisions based on that environment. And enterprise environmental factors can either be internal. These are factors in the organization that affect the successful delivery of the project, or they can be external, the markets, the forex exchange, for example, the supply chain, the in Ukraine, making you not being able to import things or to do some tests. The foreign policy in the US right now, making sure, some of you in your projects now, you're being impacted by that. You cannot receive funding by those entities which you are funding you, because that is, and you had a project which was depending on those funds. That is an external enterprise environmental factor. Factors outside the enterprise, you have no control over, you have no control who the president of the US is. He's the one who is there, and you cannot really do much. And the policies that they make, and they affect, your travel to the US or otherwise, has an impact on your project success and project delivery. The quote unquote tariffs that they're imposing. So you see the geopolitical environment. So all these things can potentially mean risks to your project. Of course, that means that we have to be knowledgeable and also think on all these aspects of our project, even as we plan for our project. So we'll be looking at enterprise environmental factors, both internal and external, and see how we take into consideration when we're making project decisions. Now, so one of the key things you will perhaps appreciate in this course also, we really want you to also focus on decision making. It's not just cramming your way out of this thing to understand and pass your PMP exam, not at all. We hope, again, the PMI mindset that I was talking about is really to enable you to make decisions, be a better decision maker. So even as we talk about, for example, about enterprise environmental factors. So as we discuss this, my thinking is that you looking at the current project you're doing or the current project you're planning to do, trying to think with that particular knowledge, what decision can you make? Maybe to cushion yourself in terms of risks, or to have a contingency to take care of that risks. So it's much more on decision making as opposed to just getting the content. Getting the content is fine, but what is the repercussion? What is the implication of the content that you're getting? So very, very important to appreciate that as well. Internal organization process assets. These are policies, procedures, and templates. Historical project data information. Again, we shall talk about what this is in detail, but just getting to appreciate that projects do not occur in a vacuum. That is the most important thing I wanted to really make sure that it comes out very clear here. The main reasons we engage in projects, it could be a market demand, it could be a customer request, it could be the organization's need, it could be legal requirements that require us to have all this. That will be part of the reasons why we do projects. Why is your project being undertaken? Do you know that? Do you know why your project is being undertaken? Is it a customer need? Is it an internal project to enhance efficiency in the organization? Is it a government project? There has to be a reason why projects are undertaken. We just don't do projects for the sake of doing them. There has to be a reason behind it. So that is important to appreciate. So what is project management then? What is project management then? Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. So we hope that by the end of this class, you'll have acquired knowledge and skills and some tools and techniques to be able to manage your projects, to be able to meet your project requirements in any project that you do, not just now, but also into the future. Of course, the value for project management, we cannot be belittled. Better planning, we focus so much on planning, and we shall see why. Sometimes people ask, why are we planning so much? Yet these plans change. Now, the value of planning in project management is not just because of the plans, but because of what it enables us to see in the project. As a project manager, you need to have a helicopter view of the entire project. You need to have a bird's eye view of the entire project. But the only way that you can be able to do that is through proper planning. And that is what project management really does emphasize on. And in lesson 3, we shall looking at planning the project, looking at different aspects of the project and seeing how we can plan those areas very well. Collaboration and communication, being able to communicate well, very fundamental. Again, we shall be focusing a little bit on that. Optimized resource allocation. One of the key areas why we need you as a good project manager is on this area of resource optimization. Resource optimization. We have resources. Resources don't come for free. Resources don't come for free. If resources don't come for free, as a project manager, can you be able to optimize resources in your project? Because that affects profitability. If you are doing projects so that you can make a profit, if you do not optimize resources, you go at a loss. You go at a loss. So reduced costs and timely delivery. We want to make sure that you're not just delivering projects by a fluke, but you consistently can be able to deliver and plan your projects well and be able to meet, of course, the timelines. Enhanced quality, satisfied stakeholder expectations, being able to align stakeholder expectations to your project needs, through the project scope, again, very key. Increase productivity, and of course, be more predictable, being more predictable in terms of course, your delivery of the project. We've talked about all these things. In this course is all about project management. Who is a project manager? A project manager is a person responsible for accomplishing the project objective. You, as a project manager, it is your sole responsibility to make sure that the project objectives are maintained, are achieved. Of course, you might have a project team, which many times for large projects, every time I've worked on any project, I could be the project manager, but definitely there's a team. So you are leading the team. So you really see the value. And this is why I tell people that, yes, you could be very good in your technical area, but the role of a project manager, when you've been designated that role, the skill set that you require are so unique. They're so unique, and you need more sometimes than your technical skills. So every good project manager needs to have business management and strategic skills. Again, we'll talk about this in lesson 1. Communication skills, fundamental. We cannot run away from this. This is how you lead well. This is how you lead better. Conflict management skills. We shall take some time to just get to understand the conflict management strategies available to us. And of course, how conflict can sometimes escalate. But again, we shall see that conflict is good. Actually, conflict is not all bad in projects. We shall talk about a concept we call the Abilene effect, the Abilene paradox, where lack of conflict doesn't necessarily mean that things are all good. Sometimes when there's lack of conflict in the team, always as a project manager, as a project leader, and even the leader of the organization, if everything is sailing and there's no conflict, sometimes to ask yourselves, perhaps you're suffering from, there could be within the team what we call the Abilene paradox, but we shall see what that is later on. Negotiation and influencing skills, very fundamental. Leadership skills, we cannot, overemphasize the value of this. Then, of course, emotional intelligence. We shall spend some time. Just talk a little bit about emotional intelligence, the different facets of emotional intelligence. Why is it important that we are able to be emotionally intelligent beings as leaders? Because we cannot deliver successful projects. I always tell people, you could be the smartest person in the room, but our combined intelligence is much superior than any smart person in that room. So as a team leader, as a project manager, your ability to harness the smartness of these people in the room is so fundamental, it's so key. We have to, we must put that into focus. And that is what lesson 4 will be putting that into particular focus. But hopefully, throughout this class now, you will be a better project leader, project manager, looking at not just, the aspect of the scope, time, and budget. Quality aspect has to be looked at. leadership, resources, etc. All those things as a project manager, because you are tasked with the responsibility of accomplishing the project objectives, you have to be on top of your game. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to the end of the introduction session. Just to give you a sneak peek into what the entire course entails. I hope it was valuable to you. I hope you've gotten value for those couple of hours we've been together. I want to finish with this quote from John Maxwell. John Maxwell said that everything worthwhile in your life is uphill. The next couple of weeks, we spend your evenings, your afternoons into a session that is not going to be a session for telling stories, because I tell people, if we came into this session and began to tell stories, you will miss the juice of it. And some of you will be from work, you'll be tired. Some of you will be at home with some stakeholders and you are like, oh my goodness, now this class. But that is really the uphill journey. The most important thing is that the value of those three letter words after your name have the prize on the goal. So we want to welcome you. Definitely, we have a couple of coming classes. Again, I think for those of you who wanted the QR code is there. We have for those of you who might not manage the evening classes, we will be having the Saturday classes, but the Saturday classes will begin in July, because the current Saturday class is ongoing. It's already past 50%, so you can't join that one. The Saturday classes usually begin from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. East African time. These are for 8 Saturdays. The evening classes, so the next Saturday class begins in July. So we don't have a current evening Saturday class, but you can register for it. It's already in your registration link. The evening class begins officially tomorrow. This will run all the way to the end of the month, and this runs from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. East African time. So you can convert to your time zone. This is GMT plus 3. GMT plus 3. So you can convert into your time zone. In case you have any query, you can always email us to info@ppcg.co.ke. You can also WhatsApp any of those numbers. You should be able to be assisted by any one of us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much. And unless I want to stop there and just look at if we have any question. Most questions have been answered, but that is not to say that some of you might be having questions that you feel perhaps it has not been captured well in the chat and you want to speak out. You can always raise your hand. We'll allow you to speak. And I'll ask my colleague Ron to assist me there so that we... Ron, you can't hear you?
Yeah, we pretty much have addressed the questions in the chat and in the Q&A, but Ranajit has put his hand up. He says he has a doubt. So you can make Ranajit, you can give him the mic so he can
Hello.
say what it is.
Hello. Hello. Okay, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
So, are we going to get like certificate for participating?
For this today's session, you mean?
Yeah.
No, we don't have a certificate of participation for today's session, but when you complete the class, the 4 weeks, there is a certificate.
And how we'll get the recordings? Actually, I have joined the session a bit longer, later on.
Did you register for this session?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you registered, the slides and the recording will be shared on your email address, the email address with which you registered for this webinar.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ruben, your hand is up. Go ahead. Ruben?
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Yes, I have a question. Maybe if engineer would clarify what are the minimum qualifications or the requirements that one must meet to be able to qualify to sit for the PMP for the PMPs.
Okay, Ruben, thank you. I did mention that in the chat in the slide deck, but not a problem. Just to clarify, there are two routes for this. The first one is if you have a university degree, then you need at least 36 months. That is about 3 years of work experience, and you have been involved in projects. Now, PMI does not specifically say that you must have been in a project leadership role. So you've been part of a project, you've been in a project environment. That should enable you to be able to sit for the PMP. So the most important thing to always remember is that the PMP certification requires that you have some years of experience in a project environment. So you've worked part of a project, not necessarily as a project leader, but you have been involved in projects. So if you do not have a degree, then the only thing that changes is that if you've, let's say, like you have a diploma, you can always, PMI requires that you have 5 years of experience in project. Now, in the event that you do not have that, then the most feasible route for you to go through, for you to be a project manager, with, of course, the same level of international recognition, is a certified associate in project management. And I see somebody asking if you have the certified associate in project management. Yes, we do have the certified associate in project management. And I think Brenda, Ron, you have the link for that registration. Those who are interested, of course, in the CPM, you can always chat us up or register. There is a CPM class. I think we should be having one in June. We should be having one coming up towards, I think, mid of June. We should be having a class for the certified associate in project management. So that one will be good for maybe students, those of you who are students, or you just graduated, you don't have any years of experience, or you have been working, but you have never been involved in any project. So you completely green to the space of projects, then that might be a good chance. But I will always encourage, especially if you have some years of work experience, you can talk to one of us, then we can see, because sometimes people are not too sure, where they fall, in terms of this experience thing. We can always guide you so that you are able to make the right decision.
Thank you very much.
The CAPM cost, I see, Brenda, we can chat that up. It's $250 USD or 30,000 Kenya shillings. That is the training fee. David, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, engineer. I just wanted to ask a question. Maybe I need a clarification on something. There's this course that I'm also attending on the PMP course, which is being sponsored by the Mind Cypress, an organization called Mind Cypress, and it's being conducted on Saturdays. So I was asking if there's any relationship between the two, the Mind Cypress and the peak, because I see I've even checked on the introduction part of it. I think they're just somehow the same things that we learned on the previous lessons from the Mind Cypress. So are they the same?
Is it a PMP? Is it a PMP prep course?
Yes.
Well, it is. The thing is, PMI, of course, accredits a number of institutions to be. There are few ATPs, that's authorized training partners. So it is possible that you could be doing. But what perhaps you could find out is what are they preparing you for? Is it an introductory part? But it's possible that it could be a similar course. but we are not related.
Okay, because then their charges were around $699, but there was some scholarship part of it that a certain US-based organization was sponsoring half of it. So that was where the difference was coming in, because I see yours is at around 40,000 Kenya shillings. That's around, yeah.
Yeah, so that could be a different, again, different bodies will charge differently. That I might not comment much around, but different people will price their products differently. So I will perhaps let you to check. Is that okay, David?
Thank you. Okay, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. I had Francis. Francis, your hand was up as well.
Yes. Thank you, sir, engineer, for having us in this wonderful class. My question regards the issue on eligibility for someone to undertake the PMP certification. For me, I want to use myself as an example so that you advise me where I fall or where I belong. Because initially, for the last 5 years, between 2018 to 2022, I was working in an organization where I was deeply involved in projects. To be specific, the CDF project that we have around. And my work involved around the projects for that period of time. And since then, I enrolled for a project management course recently that by grace of God, I am supposed to graduate in the course of this month. Now that I have I have a previous experience in projects, and my certification, the certificate that I will acquire after graduation, will show that perhaps if my intent is to undertake this course this year, it will show that I don't have the experience. Like from the year of graduation to the time I wanted to undertake the examination or the course, 3 years are not over. So in such a case, there is something that, and I don't know if one of you, if it's in Brenda or who and they said when someone wants to join or else wants to undertake the PMP course, you usually ask for an evidence of projects they've been able to undertake previously. So in this case, please advise me, sir. Thank you.
So let me get you, if I get you correct, is that you have undertaken projects before, but there is a point, you did these projects before graduation, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. I mean, before I even enrolled for the project management course,
Okay, I get you. Now, don't worry about that. Now the PMP exam, the PMI doesn't require you to have, the experience is not post-graduation. So you can have had you could be working. We've had before somebody who had a diploma, but the time they had a diploma, they were working on projects. Then they went and did their post, their undergraduate. So PMI doesn't, the idea of the years of experience is not post-graduation. So you could be having experience, project experience, even as you are in school. So if you're in school and you're working, and when you graduate, you have 3 years experience, that is still okay. PMI still takes that.
That's well noted, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So in so many questions, I think most have been answered. There is a WhatsApp group which has been shared, the number to a WhatsApp group, a link to a WhatsApp group. Kindly join that WhatsApp group. There is more interaction there. You're going to get, you can get some information that you might not have received here. I know at one point, having 200 plus people on the call, maybe 1 or 2 people, your question could have passed us, but I think most people have been diligent. The people in the background have been diligent in answering the questions. So those please join the link, join the WhatsApp group. You will receive this particular information as well. Again, as I mentioned on your email that you used to register. So I think we will want to stop there. Ron, do you have any final words to these wonderful people before I can wrap it up?
I was just posting the link to the WhatsApp group for those who have not seen it. It's the last post in the chat. I don't have much to say, just to welcome everyone. I think they have all seen what lies in store for them with regard to the PMP course. And I think you've also established the fact that the future is project management. And so you will not go wrong, or you can't go wrong by joining or taking a course in project management, especially the PMP, which is the most recognized project management certification globally. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow in class. And for those who are not able to join tomorrow, I'm hoping that you will be joining our subsequent classes in the future. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for all those questions, because it shows that you really are interested in this course. So thank you, and see you around. Back to you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron, and Brenda, background, making sure that all these questions are answered. What could we have done without you guys? Of course, without you, this class could not have been possible. So we thank you because you have spent your evening with us, but we also hope that you have, it's something you've learned so this evening. So whether you're going to be in this class or not in the future classes, just make sure that always talk about value, because that is the only reason we do projects. I hope to see a number of you tomorrow. So just to give you a heads up, to those of you joining tomorrow's session, you will receive of course, once you finalize with Brenda and Jonathan in the background, with the financial arrangement, you are going to receive a link to join a private WhatsApp group for the June class. Then you're also going to receive a link, a new link for tomorrow's class. So tomorrow's class, we're not using the link for today. That was for this session. So you shall receive a link for the class tomorrow. Then in all classes, we will begin with our, we'd like to begin to just get to appreciate you. So we want to have people on camera so that we're able to put the face to the name. Then once we have that introductory session of getting to know you, your expectations for the class, we shall jump in straight to the class. So tomorrow, of course, how we prefer to run this class is we will be having a number of trainers. So we have structured in such a way that when one trainer begins to get a little bit boring, there is somebody else who brings back the spark in the class. So tomorrow's class, you will begin off with Ron. Thereafter, Mark will jump on board, and who knows, will be along the way, in one of the classes, most definitely. So thank you very much. Have a good night. Enjoy your day tomorrow, and definitely looking forward to the PMP clock, as we call it, 6 p.m. East African time, 5 p.m. Central Africa time. I don't know, a friend in Nigeria, that might be, is that 3 p.m. or 2 p.m., perhaps around that time. So thank you very much. Have a good night. See you tomorrow. Bye.